Tensions erupt at Scarborough Shoal as Chinese patrols intensify and the Philippines conducts massive joint Balakatan exercises with allies. Daily life for Filipino fishermen is disrupted, while overlapping naval and air operations heighten the risk of miscalculation, turning this contested maritime hotspot into a flashpoint with global strategic implications. Tensions in the South China Sea have once again escalated as military activity intensifies around Scarborough Shoal, one of the most sensitive and contested maritime flashpoints in the region. What was already a fragile and closely watched security environment has now become even more volatile due to overlapping naval movements, expanded allied military exercises, and increased patrol activity by Chinese maritime forces in nearby waters. The situation is unfolding at a time when strategic competition in the Indo-Pacific is deepening and when multiple regional actors are operating in closer proximity than at any point in recent years. Scarborough Shoal, located west of Luzon, has long been at the center of the territorial dispute between China and the Philippines. Manila maintains that the shoal lies within its exclusive economic zone under international maritime law, while Beijing continues to assert its claim over most of the South China Sea, including this area as part of its broad air territorial and historical assertions. This disagreement has remained unresolved for more than a decade and continues to shape military and diplomatic behavior in the region. In recent developments, Chinese maritime forces have reportedly increased their presence around the shoal, deploying Coast Guard vessels and conducting coordinated patrols along with surveillance aircraft operating in nearby airspace. These movements have been described by Chinese authorities as routine operations aimed at safeguarding territorial sovereignty and maintaining readiness. However, the timing of these patrols has drawn significant attention as they coincide with large-scale military exercises conducted by the Philippines alongside its allies. At the same time, the Philippines has been participating in expanded joint military drills with the United States, Japan, Australia, and other regional partners under the annual Balakatan framework. These exercises have grown significantly in scale and complex, yet now involving approximately 17,000 troops and covering a wide range of operational scenarios, including amphibious landings, live fire exercises, maritime interception drills, island defense simulations, and coordinated air-sea operations. Military officials involved in the exercises have emphasized that the drills are designed to strengthen interoperability, improve readiness, and enhance humanitarian and disaster response capabilities in the Indo-Pacific region. Philippine defense leaders have consistently stated that these exercises are not directed against any specific country. Instead, they are presented as part of a broader effort to maintain regional stability and ensure that allied forces are capable of responding to emerging security challenges. However, from Beijing's perspective, these growing military collaborations are viewed with deep suspicion and are often interpreted as part of a broader containment strategy aimed at limiting China's influence in the region. China officials and state-aligned commentary have strongly criticized the exercises, arguing that they contribute to the militarization of the South China Sea and increase the risk of instability. In recent statements, Chinese representatives have warned participating nations that such actions could be seen as provocative, with officials reportedly cautioning that countries involved are playing with fire. Beijing has repeatedly maintained that disputes in the South China Sea should be resolved directly between the parties involved without external military involvement. Against this backdrop, Scarborough Shoal has once again become a central focal point of strategic tension. The shoal has effectively remained under Chinese control since a prolonged maritime standoff in 2012, when Philippine vessels withdrew after weeks of confrontation. Since then, China has maintained a persistent presence in the area through Coast Guard patrols and maritime enforcement activities, gradually consolidating operational control and limiting Philippine access to traditional fishing grounds. For many Filipino fishermen, the dispute is not just a geopolitical issue, but a daily reality that affects livelihoods. Access to traditional fishing areas around the shoal has become increasingly restricted and repeated encounters with foreign vessels have created uncertainty and economic pressure in coastal communities. Fishing families in nearby provinces continue to report disruptions, reduced catch volumes, and concerns about safety when operating in contested waters. The legal dimension of the dispute became especially significant in 2016 when an international tribunal ruled that China's expansive maritime claims in the South China Sea have no legal basis under international law. The ruling also affirmed certain traditional fishing rights for both Filipino and Chinese fishermen in the region. However, it did not resolve the question of sovereignty over Scarborough Shoal itself, leaving the core dispute politically and strategically unsettled. China rejected the ruling and has continued to assert its claims regardless of the decision. Since then, both sides have steadily increased their maritime presence in the area. China has expanded its Coast Guard operations and maintained continuous patrol patterns around key features, while the Philippines has strengthened its maritime monitoring activities and deepened defense cooperation with allied nations. This gradual buildup has transformed the South China Sea into one of the most heavily monitored and contested maritime regions in the world. Recent months have seen an increase in what analysts describe as strategic signaling from both sides. Chinese vessels have been observed maintaining tighter patrol formations near Scarborough Shoal, while Philippine maritime forces continue to conduct regular presence operations in nearby waters. At the same time, allied naval and air units participating in regional exercises have been operating across multiple zones in the South China Sea, including areas not far from disputed maritime features. This overlapping presence has significantly increased concerns about miscalculation. Military analysts warn that in such a dense operational environment, even routine maneuvers can be misinterpreted as hostile or provocative. Close-range shadowing, aggressive navigation behavior, communication breakdowns, or accidental proximity between vessels all carry the risk of escalation. In maritime disputes like this, history shows that unintended incidents can escalate rapidly if not carefully managed. China has also increased the intensity of its broader air and naval operations across the region during the same period. Long-range surveillance aircraft, coordinated naval formations, and increased Coast Guard deployments have been reported in strategic corridors of the South China Sea. While Beijing describes these operations as defensive and routine, their timing and visibility are wide. Seen as deliberate signals of deterrence and control, the Philippines, meanwhile, has continued to strengthen its defense partnerships as part of a broader strategic shift. Under President Ferdinand Marcos Jr., Manila has significantly expanded military cooperation with the United States and other regional partners, including Japan and Australia. This shift reflects a growing emphasis on external deterrence, maritime domain awareness, and multilateral defense coordination in response to increasing pressure in the West Philippine Sea. The United States remains central to the security architecture. Washington has repeatedly reaffirmed its commitment under the Mutual Defense Treaty with the Philippines, stating that any armed attack on Philippine forces, public vessels, or aircraft in the South China Sea could trigger mutual defense obligations. This commitment plays a crucial role in shaping regional calculations as it introduces the possibility of wider involvement should any confrontation escalate beyond control. Japan's role has also expanded significantly in recent years, with its participation in joint military exercises marking a historic shift in regional security cooperation. Australia and several other partner nations have likewise increased their engagement in maritime drills and strategic coordination efforts. Together, these developments reflect a broader pattern of growing alignment among countries concerned about maintaining freedom of navigation and regional stability in the Indo-Pacific. Despite these developments, the situation on the ground remains highly unstable. Analysts continue to warn that the South China Sea represents one of the most dangerous maritime environments in the world today. The combination of unresolved territorial disputes, increased military presence, and frequent close encounters between rival forces creates conditions where even minor incidents could escalate rapidly into broader conflict. Diplomatic channels between China and the Philippines remain open, but progress in reducing tensions has been limited. Both sides continue to reinforce their positions through a combination of legal arguments, diplomatic messaging, and military deployments. China insists on its sovereignty claims and opposes external military involvement, while the Philippines continues to assert its rights under international law and deepen its security partnerships. At the same time, the broader geopolitical rivalry between the United States and China adds another layer of complexity to the situation. The South China Sea has become a central arena in this wider competition, where issues of military presence, strategic influence, and regional alignment intersect. For China, maintaining control over disputed waters is closely tied to national security and regional influence. For the Philippines and its allies, ensuring access to international waters and upholding maritime law is seen as essential to long-term stability. As military activity continues to intensify around Scarborough Shoal, both sides appear committed to maintaining their respective positions without direct confrontation. However, the increasing density of naval operations, surveillance missions, and allied exercises means that the risk of miscalculation remains ever present. What makes the situation particularly sensitive is not just the presence of competing claims, but the constant interaction of multiple military forces operating in close proximity. Every patrol, exercise, or interception carries both operational and symbolic meaning, and each one adds another layer of tension to an already crowded maritime space. For now, the confrontation remains within the boundaries of strategic signaling rather than open conflict. Yet the combination of rising military activity, unresolved sovereignty disputes, and deepening alliance structures ensures that the South China Sea will remain a critical point of global attention. As Scarborough Shoal continues to sit at the center of these competing interests, the region stands at a delicate crossroads. The coming period will determine whether diplomacy and deterrence can continue to prevent escalation, so whether a single incident at sea could push this already fragile situation into a far more dangerous phase with implications far beyond the region itself.